What's up?
There we are. We are back.
How's
Season
it going, bud?
3.
Season
Season
three.
3 is
Woo!
upon us. And we have stepped our game up a little bit. Jesus, look how pale I look. I'm like a ghost.
You and me both, buddy. You and me both.
I'm going to adjust this light because it's blowing me out like crazy. Jeez.
Hmm.
Oh, man. It feels good to be back and doing so. My living room's a mess right now, too. Jeez.
Oh,
I'm
don't
getting
be
ready
so
for a
harsh.
video shoot, so there's just absolute chaos going on right now in my house. But
Yeah.
how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Man, this week just flew by. I had to go into the office a couple times, and today in particular, it was just madness. I was doing a lot. I had to create a commercial for my work yesterday and one day, and using old footage and new footage and some other stuff. And it's been a busy week, man. I'm glad it's over. I'm glad I get to relax a little bit today.
I feel that my on-call week was this week, and I had uh, more 4 a.m. calls than I have ever had to do, and I had to go to link, and I had to like travel for an hour to get to like each location every time.
Mm,
So it really sucked. Um,
wow.
but uh, like my problems notwithstanding, first of all, Nerfherders, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the show. Welcome
Wish
to
you had a
season
beer or
3.
something. We should
I
have
know,
had a
right?
beer. We totally missed out on that.
Well, I don't drink. I'm boring that way. So
Here's my diet root beer. There you go.
there you go. I say Diet Hansel.
It's Diet Hanson's. Yeah,
Hanson's.
it's
Okay.
like it's
It's
a
like,
alternate to Zevia. I go back and forth with them all the time.
I got you. There you go.
Hmm.
Proper alternatives. I haven't had a soda in forever, man. It's insane.
Well, that's why I drink these because this is water, and this and Zevia, they taste exactly like soda, but it's water. So, um, yeah, it
Healthy
tastes really
choices.
good. Right, healthy
Healthy
choices.
choices for
Trying.
season 3.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so we kind of held off for a little bit to, well, for one, to create the fancy new graphics that everybody's seeing. Like I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to get some new channel artwork in there. I also wanted a YouTube banner that didn't say uh, insert name here, like
Insert banner here. Yeah.
because we aren't new here. Like it said, we are new here, and that's not true. That's really not
Yeah.
true. So I'm actually working on changing that right now because that hadn't happened. But
Mm-hmm.
another thing that we kind of overlooked was back in March was actually Nerfherder's first birthday. So
Oh, really?
yeah, so it was like March 13th, I believe, was the very first upload that we ever did.
Well, happy belated.
I know, right? I'm gonna jump back here real fast. It was like because it was a trailer reaction back with OG Mr. Man Gerald, who we do miss. He's March 15th. I'm sorry, March 15th was the very first video that Nerf Herders ever put out, and it was a trailer reaction to Avengers Endgame,
Mm.
and
Wow.
yeah, that was so yeah, March 15th. That was our first birthday, and we missed it. We're actually closer to the first episode of the podcast because May 26th was the first episode of the podcast.
Oh, so we missed
So
another birthday.
yeah, we
Jeez.
missed another birthday. So
Two birthdays in a row, man. What the hell?
yeah, we didn't do too good of a job, but it was kind of odd thinking about how yeah we've been doing this for over a year already,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't feel like that, and I think that's a really good thing because that shows a good sign that we're going to keep on doing this. Now, honestly, it was like I'm just giving a brief history. Like things were very disorganized at first because it was just me and a good friend wanting to make content that was not something that we were being paid for because I'm a videographer. That's what I do. That's one of my jobs. That cannot be my phone ringing right now. That is not a call that I'm going to take. um, we didn't want to make any more content that we were being paid for. We did want to
Right.
continue doing that, but we wanted to have something that was fun. Like we were like there was a lot of effort going into the other videos. We wanted something easy, like we wanted
Mm-hmm.
something lazy, but we were big comic book nerds, and we really wanted to talk about that stuff and just kind of have a good time. And we ended up meeting you quite a bit prior before we actually started Nerf Herders. We had an interview with you about your book series and I can't remember which book you were actually on at that point. That might have been the third in your Fierce Literature saga.
I
Or no,
don't
you were
think it
talking
was
about
the
the
third.
omnibus. I think
Yeah,
I know for sure you were talking about the omnibus at that time.
yeah. Well, because I met Gerald a lot like before then. I think the year
Yep.
before then, or yeah, it must have been the year before then. But yeah, the last time I was on there to do the books is when I had the omnibus and I had it all done.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was yeah, it was an interesting time. But we had you come in as for a guest spot on
hmm
one of the episodes of the podcast, and yeah, we just kind of never could we could just never really get rid of you. So
Oh well,
no,
let me go.
no, we are very very happy to have you on, and unfortunately, like as a part of history, Gerald ran into some like he wanted to go in a different direction with his personal life,
Mhm.
and this would have ended up being something that he could not have devoted the amount of time that he wanted to, and he could see like he had the utmost faith that things were going to move very fast for us and things were going to evolve very quickly, and he didn't want to slow that down by having different ambitions for what he wanted to do in his personal life, which absolutely comes first. And so, but we wish Gerald well. So the last I talked to him, he was doing pretty good.
Mm.
Um, so that is the brief history of Nerfherders Assemble. Is just a group of friends wanting to talk about comic book news, movie news, book news, all kinds of stuff. And and here we are over a year later, with probably the craziest stuff that we've had to talk about so far. I don't know if that's just because of the volume of stuff that built up while we were kind of prepping for season 3,
Well,
or
yeah, just the last week alone, there's been so much movie news. I feel like somebody like stepped into Hollywood and took out the defibrillator and was like, "All right, let's start getting some news out of you," because it's been a minute, and I feel like this week and the past weekend there was a lot of Hollywood related stuff, a lot of world stuff too. But man, remember when like the only thing we had to talk about was assholes on the beach at spring break, and like now we have like legitimate entertainment news to talk about. So that's
right?
kind of cool.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
The I don't know, like the craziest thing was just how all of it sort of happened at once.
Mm,
Like we were getting like no news, and then boom, like you said, it was like somebody had taken out the defibrillator. Some of the
yeah.
news kind of weird, but also, I mean, just with like the Justice League Snyder Cut news that came
Right.
completely out of, I guess I wouldn't say out of nowhere, because I mean there was some stuff that was going on there, and honestly, finding out that Henry Cavill was going to stick around, some Sonic the Hedgehog news. We've got some controversy in there. Scorsese's popping up in the news again.
hmm
What do you want to talk about first?
Let's see. That's what did we have first? I
So
guess we're gonna
you
talk
made some
about.
show notes because I
Yeah.
just
Let's.
can't see them right now.
I guess we're gonna go and talk about the controversy first. Let's get the ugly stuff out of the way first.
Yeah.
Might as well.
The
Um,
the not so happy news.
the not so happy news. Well, it starts off with some dumbass news, and that's
Yeah,
this stuff. I
yeah.
mean, I did Tropic Thunder come out like 25 years ago or something like that? Because apparently there's still people that haven't seen this that are now posting on Twitter. Oh my gosh, did you see that Robert Downey Jr. did blackface in a movie called Tropic Thunder? We should cancel Iron Man. Like there's legit people out there who are claiming that they just found out about this and that we should cancel Robert Downey Jr. because he did blackface. And then about the same time, somebody else was like, "Oh, well, your boy Jimmy Fallon, he was on SNL and he did blackface, and thus he should also be canceled." Cancel culture at its finest.
Well, the biggest irritation around the Robert Downey Jr. side, the Tropic Thunder side, was that his character in the movie was specifically a parody of white actors
Right.
playing black actors with blackface and thinking that it's okay.
Well, that's
Like,
that's called context. That's called
yeah,
context,
yeah,
Seth. And
that
no
was
one gives a shit about context. Let's be
that
real here.
yeah, that was the big thing, is that it was a specific like nod to that frustration.
Yeah.
Like that was the whole point of that character. So
Mm-hmm.
that was kind of that was irritating enough as it was.
Mm-hmm.
The Jimmy Kimmel side of things, I did not see that skit, and honestly, I didn't
Jimmy
care to
Jimmy
watch it.
Fallon. You
Or
got the
Jimmy
wrong late
Fallon.
night Jimmy.
I'm sorry, they're both boring to me. I don't care. Uh, I don't know what it is about late night TV hosts. It's just not the way that it like I remember watching them as a kid, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, man. I think David Letterman was like the last one that I was like super pleased with. Way
Yeah.
off topic, but I just read the Bat Metal comics. And what up, Jones? Hello, Chris.
What's up,
Uh,
Chris? Yeah,
Bat Bat
way off
Metal
topic.
comics. I'm not familiar. I'll have to do some research there.
Yeah,
But
it's the Snyder, the Scott Snyder Bat Metal comics. We'll have to talk about those some other time,
let me say
but
it's
those are good.
yeah.
Good job catching up on those, Chris. We'll talk more about them.
Metalocalypse. Okay, all right, I'm sold.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to check those out. Metalocalypse and Death Clock was hilarious. Like
Yeah, but
Metalocalypse is great.
so this, I mean, so yeah, it was long time ago. Jimmy Fallon was on SNL, and he did a Chris Rock impression, and to which Chris Rock has always defended him from that. And in fact, recently he has come out, as well as other people, has come out to defend Jimmy Fallon for doing it. And you know, this, I mean, here's the thing. This is what I truly believe. I believe there's maybe a chance that there's some people out there on Twitter who just found out about this, and they're deeply saddened, and they're deeply offended, and they wanted to see if the rest of the world knew about it. I think there's also some people that are bandwagoning on this, that are fire starters, and
Well,
they like to spread shit.
Well, ever since COVID started and people were quarantined, they didn't have a whole
Yeah,
lot to do. I swear, every single day that I logged into Twitter, there was some other celebrity and the hashtag was trending. This person is over party,
yeah.
like all the time, like almost every single day there was something in there. And like it's another reason why I don't participate that much in social media, which is
Mm,
actually something that I need to fix as far as as far as like content creation goes. Like
mm-hmm.
I'm really bad about remembering to post to Nerfherders or to like my photography page or anything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I cannot get behind like because if I'm looking, I'm just gonna scoot through here real fast. I'm gonna see if somebody else is canceled today. But it was so frequent. I mean, with everything going on, that's probably not gonna be the case.
Yeah.
But yeah. There's nobody. Nobody's nobody's over today. But yeah, it was just so weird to see. Like, first of all, it happened a while ago. Like, this is old news, and you guys are trying to get fired up again now, and that is the most irritating part
Mm-hmm.
of cancel culture is that it doesn't matter when it happened. A lot of the time, if not all the time, does not matter the context in which it happened
Right.
or what was done. Like there's no forgiveness whatsoever on the internet. I mean, the internet doesn't forget. That's indisputable. That's understandable. But I mean, come on. Like we're talking about we're in the age of the internet. It's ancient history. Like
Mm-hmm.
when stuff has gone by that much time, like it's history. It's gone. There's no point in obsessing over it as much as these people have been. And they're not picking out like any like really big stuff. Like I mean, first of all, blackface, I understand. That's a very touchy subject. It's a very hard thing to get around, and I want to be very careful about what I say, especially with what's going on today and
Yeah.
for the last 4 days. Like but context does matter.
Yeah.
Context absolutely matters. Like it's like
I mean, okay. In as far as Robert Downey Jr. is concerned, I do believe that context matters. That, like as you said, it was a parody. There was a reason why they were doing that. He was in the wrong, and the narrative of the film was to address that.
yeah.
That was the point of that. As far as Jimmy Fallon, he did what a lot of other people did back then. He was just lucky enough to have been on a sketch show. I believe there were a lot of people, and then he's lucky enough not to have turned out to be a politician, because there was a lot of people back then that thought they were funny and thought they could do a good impression of a black person, and they did blackface, and some people liked it and some people laughed at it. Um, it really doesn't matter that some celebrities have come out and said, "Hey, we're okay with Jimmy Fallon. Stop giving him shit." I do believe that there's probably some people out there that are like, "I don't care. I don't care if Jamie Foxx thinks it's okay. I don't care if Chris Rock thinks it's okay. It offends me." And I'm not going to be the one to say, you don't have that right to get offended. Um, However, I do know that there is a large majority of people out there that are they just want to cancel somebody, and any type of fire that they can jump on, they'll jump on it. And if I were in, now I know Jimmy Fallon's issued an apology video. I haven't seen it. If I had been in his position, I would have addressed, both. I would have said thank you to the defenders. I would have said thank you to the people that spoke out, and spoke their mind and their feelings. But I would have said, hey, let's be real here. I'm not the story. This is a distraction, and shame on any media coverage that this is getting, because there are much bigger racist problems going on in the main news right now, and we should be focusing on that. And this was at the beginning of this week, and by the end of this week, no one's talking about Blackface Fallon anymore. They're talking about what's been going on when the lights go out in Minneapolis. And I'm glad that the media has dropped this stupid ass story and has started focusing on that, because that is a much bigger problem. But before we jump into that, just one more thing on this. I mean, why would you cancel either of these two people? I mean, if it's, there's got to be some type of process of this, or rules of this. I mean, it's one thing if they did something a long time ago and then they've consistently done things. You want to cancel Jimmy Fallon because he did something 20 years ago. Give me the things he's done between 20 years ago and now that continues to support that behavior. But if he's not the same person, then you should celebrate his growth. Unless that is like a skeleton in his closet that he doesn't want you to know about because there's a part of his life that's still like that, that's another thing. But if they did something 20 years ago, and the last 2 decades of their lives has not reflected that, that's got to stand for something.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to remember here is that it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Like this is, I'm not saying that that the year 2000 was a different time, but well, I mean, it really was, because if you think back, 2001 was when things really changed. It was late 2001.
Sure.
But if this was somebody who was the problem that I have with the cancel culture is that it doesn't matter how good of a person that person is and then made one mistake, it immediately gone. Like you said, it doesn't matter what else he's done. I mean, there's really not too much more to say here. I think a big part of the outrage for stuff that happens currently is it's not like they did it on impulse, I mean, even with Jimmy Fallon's issue back in 2000, like the whole skit gets pitched to the writers' room. A lot of people discuss it. They probably do a table read. They probably do a dress rehearsal, but at least for the live performance, they will do a dress rehearsal, at least I assume. Mm-hmm. And like all the way up to that point, nobody was like, hey, you know what? You might catch shit for this later.
Well, and if they weren't the loudest person in the room. So
no, clearly not. I don't know. If you're going to do an imitation of Chris Rock and you're a white guy, you just really need to watch the episode of The Office where Michael Scott did it. It didn't end well for him.
Yeah, and no one's saying cancel Steve Carell.
Oh my God, dude! Some of the stuff that happened in The Office, I am shocked.
Yeah, have these kids watched The Office?
It's like,
Like
some of
Prison Mike. Have you seen Prison Mike?
Prison Mike, not even the worst one. Like, what about the part where he lies to a bunch of children that he's going to pay for their college
Oh
tuitions,
my gosh.
and they're all
Yeah.
underprivileged? First of all, that's like the hardest episode in the entire show to watch.
Yeah.
But but that's the like the like just the episode around his Chris Rock impersonation and the ensuing events that they go through after all of that.
Mhm.
Cannot believe that, like, The Office is an incredibly popular show. It's been on Netflix for forever. There are, like, it is maybe 1,000,000 to 1 people saying that The Office is the greatest show on Netflix. Don't get rid of it. And then that
Yeah.
one person being like, "Hey, but it's also like super offensive." Like, because like I remember watching a video recently where they were like people were well, not people, the young kids in the like 2 generations below us were talking about how offensive Seinfeld was. And I'm
Two
just like,
generations.
I don't know about, I don't know. They were pretty young.
Okay.
They were early teenagers.
Okay.
Like they were. I mean, they were at an appropriate age, I think, to consume Seinfeld, or maybe not, because they certainly weren't happy with it.
Yeah,
But
don't watch Seinfeld, don't watch Friends.
that's
You
kind
know,
of yeah, that's
there's
kind of the
there's
thing.
plenty of
Like it's
YouTube videos as like Friends was homophobic trash and what did I just say homophobic?
you
Homophobic
did say
trash.
hobo.
I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm sure they didn't like homeless people as well. Yeah. It's I mean, this goes back to Uncle Ben's statement. With great power comes great responsibility. And Twitter and on well, it's not Twitter. It's online. It's social media has so much power now that it didn't back then. Your voice can be heard if it's caught by the right amount of people throughout the entire world. What you type could be viewed thousands and millions of times depending on how it's picked up. And we've seen this work for the good of things and we've seen this work for the bad of things. And it's like your parents told you when you grew up. You cry wolf too many times, no one's going to believe you when you have something real to say. And when you waste your cancel culture power on stupid ass shit like this, where I've heard plenty of things about how Jimmy Fallon isn't as nice as he is on TV. But unless you've got stuff from the last 20 years that shows that he is a closeted racist and that he actually is a piece of shit, then you're wasting your time and everyone else's time by trying to cancel him because of a stupid skit that he probably wishes he didn't do. But, that's not who he's been for the last 2 decades. And especially Robert Downey Jr. It's not that we're giving him a pass because the movie was funny. It's because there was a purpose to it in the movie. And you are just either you haven't seen it, so you don't know, or you're refusing to acknowledge it.
Well,
But you're wasting your power on this stuff when you could be focusing on other things.
we see that a lot. It's sensationalism and outrage around headlines, not necessarily about details.
Yeah.
And it's like, was Jimmy? Like I said, I haven't seen Jimmy Fallon's skit. I didn't care about SNL in 2000. I honestly I don't care about it now. Like I don't look at comedy and parody as something that I need to take seriously or something that needs to be representative of the way people feel in today's day and age. Like,
Mhm.
first of all, like you said, this is his one thing that cancel culture is going to try and call him out on with a more than 20-year long career.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of Jimmy Fallon, and I like I get that it's hard hearing this from a white guy, but like he's not out there advocating for racism all of the time. Like, he's not out there defending white supremacists or anything like that. He didn't put. I'm imagining that he did not put on blackface to intentionally offend or to intentionally harass black people. Like I said, like if the person who he was parodizing was like, yeah, no, I'm fine with it. Like, I mean, it kind of makes it hard for them to stand on that basis.
Yeah.
But again, like I said, like how many people actually watched the skit and got super offended by it versus how many people just saw that he did it once
Mhm.
and are just bandwagoning, like you said earlier. It was like,
Yeah.
that is what I feel like a lot of cancel culture is. is kind of this new way of people to get their 15 minutes of fame out there by having a tweet that goes viral because of a comment that they made on somebody's
Yeah.
cancellation party or something like that.
Well, and half the
That's
time,
what it tends to be a lot of the times. Like they don't actually feel the way that they feel in the tweet that
right?
they made, but it got a
Mhm.
lot of likes and it got a lot of retweets,
Yeah.
got a lot of shares. That is more what their intentions are for the most part. There's definitely a group of people who are absolutely and legitimately offended by the actions. And
Yes.
those are the people who Jimmy Fallon is actually addressing when he was making his apologies.
Yes.
I can guarantee you that he doesn't give a fuck about the people who are bandwagoning and just trying to get on there just to up their follower count.
Yeah. Or the
And
false
that's the right way to
virtue.
do it.
There's a
Yeah,
lot of false
absolutely.
virtue out there. I mean, again, we're the people that were offended have the right to be offended. But
Yeah.
with these type of things, there's always a lot of white people who want to be offended for other people, like Ghost in the Shell. They wanted to be so offended for Japanese people and the people, the Japanese people that saw Ghost in the Shell was like, we really liked it. Like, why are you offended by this? Why are you offended for us? There's a lot of false virtue out there. But when I first wanted to talk to you about this at the beginning of the week, it was because I was livid that I saw so much media around this story when the real story was out of Minneapolis. And I was just like, this is the story, and and this is the distraction. Any news that's
Yeah.
focusing on this did not want you to focus on this. And and then we ended up not doing a show earlier this week, and this is the first time we've done a show this week, and a lot has happened in the last couple of days,
Yeah.
and Minneapolis is on fire, and now every single news organization is covering this story, as they should, because this is the real story. You want to get upset about something online, you get upset about this, and you get upset about what happened in South Carolina. Those are examples of people using their power correctly. Because
It's like,
I mean, earlier this month we were talking about what happened in was it Georgia? It was Georgia, not South Carolina. Was it? It was Georgia. Uh,
I can't. It was down south. You're
yeah,
talking
I
about
think.
Ahmaud Arbery, right?
Yeah, I think it was right. I mean, that shit happened in February, man, and the only reason why these guys are in prison now the only reason why these guys are in prison now is because somebody on social media shared this shit. Somebody, that video leaked, and somebody was like, take a look at this. Otherwise, this dude right here, and this dude right here, and the dude that filmed it, they've been living their lives since February, uh, free, not wondering if they're ever going to be persecuted, just free. And that shit was wrong. And the internet blew up about it, and now they're behind bars. And that is an example of using the power of the internet to spread the righteous word, and get these assholes in jail. And now, now the media is focusing on the correct story that they should be focusing on, with what happened to Floyd here. And I mean, I just got really mad that there was this everybody seemed to be focusing on the stupid ass Jimmy Fallon shit, when it was clearly, just don't look at the real thing going on. Look at this fake headline that we're trying to push.
So the current situation is especially upsetting because I think just the timing that it occurred.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like people are already angry. Like
Yeah.
we just got done hearing about a bunch of protests. Like it's a really poor contrast, unfortunately. Like it's very ill timed, and unfortunately leaders and people in power are not handling it the way that they should be. Because we
Some
saw a
are,
bunch of
but
some are,
most
yeah,
are. Yeah.
absolutely, some are, but unfortunately the majority are not.
Yeah.
Which is also just stoking the fire as far as all this anger is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I know that we don't want to go into too. I don't want to talk about Minnesota too terrible much, but it definitely needs to be addressed because it is going to have implications on pop culture, which is essentially what this podcast is about. Uh, the like the events that transpired. First of all, I can't like. Did you see the video?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that was really hard to watch.
Well,
Um,
my wife is like super claustrophobic, and she was like, she couldn't,
oh man,
she
dude,
had
like
to, she couldn't watch it because she was getting like freaking out, and there was nobody was even touching her. So I can only imagine.
one of my biggest fear is dying through suffocation
Mm,
or not being able to breathe. Like
hmm.
that is one thing that I cannot imagine
Yeah.
ever. It's just I cannot I can't even talk about it. Um, dying through being choked or being suffocated, something like that is just
Yeah.
it's just
It's
horrible.
scary. It's well, and this isn't the first time we've seen a cop holding somebody down, and people are like, you're being too rough or something like that. And there's always the argument of, well, it's the cop versus the guy, and sometimes the camera doesn't always show the guy fighting back against the cop, and the cop's just trying to keep the guy down. Well, other footage came out to show that at first it just looked like it was this one guy holding him down, and that was still wrong with what he was doing. But then other footage came out to show that there was two other cops that were on top of this guy. So the
Yeah,
guy wasn't resisting. There's no way the guy was getting up. Everybody was just like, dude, you got him. Just chill. And he continued, a firefighter even came over to say, you need to check him right now, get off of him. And
that
he
that
still
was the
just
most
didn't listen.
frustrating. That was the most frustrating thing is that they held him down for so long.
Yeah.
Like
9 minutes.
first of all,
Nine
while he's
minutes.
begging for his life, like
Yeah.
you got him down on the ground, cuff him, put him in a car.
Yeah.
Why did you need to hold him down? Like it was like he was
What
like
were you
it,
waiting for?
yeah,
What are
like
you
what are you waiting for? Like what was the point of holding him down for that amount of time?
Yeah.
You had him under control. Um, like a lot of people are shoving around a meme to where a knee in the neck is not standard police procedure. They're not trained that way. That is true. They're not trained to put their knee in the neck. They are trained to use their knee to control suspects as far as leverage and
Sure.
keeping them under control. But um, the amount of misinformation that goes around is just as dangerous as the amount of good information that's going around because unfortunately the true stuff is just as infuriating as something that somebody could make up.
Yeah.
Like this is one of those situations where even the facts are enough to absolutely cause you to go into a riot, to cause you to go into a fury.
Hmm.
And but the stuff that people like, which is why I don't understand why people are trying to mislead anybody or people are trying to downplay the situation because that's just making things so much worse.
Yeah.
It's like this is a serious situation. An innocent man was killed. First of all, the reason that he had the cops called on him was just ridiculous. It was like, why are you why are you throwing somebody under arrest because you assume that they are writing a false or writing a bad check when he wasn't. First of all, he wasn't. Like
Hmm.
he absolutely wasn't. Like what I don't understand what transpired from that. Like I said, I have not. Uh, First of all, I was on call, so I've been busy. Like if I haven't been working, I've been trying to sleep.
Hmm.
But so I have not actually looked up what the timeline of events were. But I like first of all, I don't care what you did. If he was in the like, if you're on the ground with a cop's knee in your neck, begging for your life,
Hmm.
I don't feel like. First of all, you obviously didn't do something enough to threaten that officer with his life because they would have shot you. If they had felt like their
Yeah.
lives were in danger, they would have killed him.
Yeah.
Like on the spot. It would not have been under the circumstances that they did, which is bad enough as it is.
Right.
That we do not have a method to where cops can take suspects down in a way that does not kill them, even if there is a minor threat to their life. If you see a suspect pull a gun on you, absolutely, I'm not going to be upset about you gunning that person down, because you don't know. Like, first of all, you don't know who that person's going to shoot. You don't know if they're going to shoot cops. Like, it was at like this event, I think, was outside of a grocery store or a deli or something like that. You don't know who's going to get hit by that. You got to negate that threat. But
Right.
he didn't have a gun on him. He wasn't being accused of a violent crime. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
make sense.
And
Like, the
even
logic
even
makes it
still,
hard to understand.
you got him, and
Yeah, you had him under control.
for 9 minutes, and 9 minutes doesn't sound like a long time until you pull out a timer and you do it. 9 minutes, people were standing there saying, "Get off of him!" Like, they weren't saying let him go. They weren't saying, take the hand. They were just saying, "Get off of
Yeah,
him," and
let him
he was
breathe.
begging. And are you serious? You've never what was there? He's talking so he can breathe. That doesn't that's not that's not accurate.
Like, yeah,
He
he can
was.
breathe, but not nearly enough to sustain life.
You don't know what's going on inside.
Like,
I mean, you don't know what's going on inside, and then eventually he loses consciousness and whatnot.
dude, he
It's
was
just,
calling out for his mother.
yeah, it's
Like,
it's
he was calling out for his mother. How threatening is that? Like,
and
how
you had
threatening can you
three
take that?
guys on him. And what were you waiting for? You had your car there, you had him cuffed up, you had your boys with you. Just
I think
arrest him.
I
Just
think
arrest
standard
him.
I think standard procedure for cops is to have, first of all, they've got at least one set of handcuffs on them. Who knows
Yeah.
how many sets of zip tie cuffs that they use, because I see them using
Yeah.
that all the time. So there are three cops there. There are four cops there.
Hmm.
Like, how many sets of handcuffs do you need? How many? Like, what were you having to do? He wasn't kicking around. He wasn't whipping and bucking and trying to get away from him. What
Yeah.
were you doing?
Yeah.
What were you doing? Like,
Well,
and
I
I
mean,
just, it's hard to understand. But the implication, like the after effects, are, first of all, if you're shocked about anything that's happening, you're obviously not paying attention.
yeah.
Because stuff like this has been happening for a long time. Like, these people have a point. This has passed the point of being ridiculous. That
Well,
that we're
and
still at this
people
point where this is still happening. But
people are
now,
tired of waiting around when they
yeah,
see a guy who was killed back in February and we're just now hearing about it. They don't want that to happen again. And 4 days ago, when this happened, it seemed like from the leadership in Minneapolis that these cops were not going to be charged, and that set people alight. And the county attorney was on. He had a press conference today, and he seemed very proud. They have arrested the guy, the lead officer, and they've charged him with third-degree murder and manslaughter. And he said, I just want to point out that we did this. We've arrested him and charged him in 4 days, and that's never happened before. Okay, but that's not your victory to celebrate. You only did that because you forced the people to force you to do that. The people saw that nothing was happening. In fact, it looked like everything was being pushed aside, and and Minneapolis blew up, like literally blew up. And people were, I mean, how many times? Literally, that we just found out about the guy in Georgia this same month. How many times is this going to happen a month? Uh, we get upset with school shootings, and we barely get upset with school shootings anymore. But it's ridiculous.
I wouldn't. I'm not gonna
No,
say that. But
there are
there's a
school
I
shootings
there's definitely
happen so much. They
a desensitification
There is.
towards these
There is.
events for too many people,
Yeah.
because of the frequency of these events. I will agree
Yep.
with you there. So we're here in Omaha, Nebraska. I just recently, just before today, there was a protest scheduled for 6 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And in one of the most popular, well, actually one of the busiest intersections in town, it's 72nd and Dodge.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I don't know how I would be able to put a number on how many people were there. Like, it's kind of hard to That's how many people there were. It was hard to tell how many people were there. That's how many people were there.
Hmm.
There were it was it was an unbelievable amount of people. Because first of all, if you're familiar with 72nd and Dodge, if you're familiar to Omaha, 72nd and Dodge has a protest of some kind going on pretty frequently, of varying size. I remember seeing one where there were like 4 people there protesting circumcision. And that one was super weird, by the way.
There's always right there on that corner,
like,
on that intersection. There's always somebody right there. Yeah.
They were in like all white clothes and they had like a bloodstained pant right in their
Oh
crotch.
gosh.
Like, this is weird. This is strange. But there's always a protest there of some kind, or there's the super nice Vets for Peace or Honk for Peace guys.
Yeah.
It's a group of I think they're Vietnam veterans or with Iraq veterans who are they're really just standing out there, just advocating for peace, honk for peace, stuff like that. Super harmless. But it's never been this amount of people. I've never seen this amount of people at that intersection before.
And this didn't even happen in Omaha, which is, and, I mean, it's inspiring. It is inspiring.
Currently, there is a huge protest that some people are calling a riot, but so far I haven't been able to like find any evidence to back that up. But they're saying that there's rioting in Des Moines, Iowa right now. There absolutely is rioting going on in Atlanta, Georgia right now.
There were riots in Denver yesterday, I believe. There's been a lot of major protests across the country in the last couple days. It's inspiring. It is.
Los Angeles, they were blocking off streets. They were blocking off the 110 in Los Angeles. That was really big. Like, it's getting bad. Like, this is first of all, stuff like this has been boiling up for a while, and now it's reached critical mass in the worst way, based around like the worst events that could happen is like, because you want to trust cops, like you want them to uphold like the highest standard of making sure that people are safe, and when this happens, it pokes a huge hole in that trust, and
listen,
things get
bad. I know we got to move on from this. But I do want to say this isn't an anti-cops thing. You know, we do know that there are thousands upon thousands of cops in this nation. They're not all bad. But take a step back and think about it. What if the police was a company like, say, Apple? Okay. And what if over the last 10, 20 years, Apple consistently had employees that were killing people or that were committing these types of crimes? Now, you could say, well, Seth, there's thousands upon thousands of employees that work at Apple. There's always going to be some bad apples. But at some point, you're going to be like, but they're all working at Apple. Like, how many of them are there? You know, and why do they keep on coming up? And it's the same thing for the cops. We know they're not all bad, but if you want the respect of the people, you need to let go of the bad ones. When something happens, your first instinct should not be to protect your own. It should be to cast out the guys that fucked up, the guys and the girls that fucked up. Your first instinct should not be, maybe we should try to cover this up. No, your first instinct should be to listen and to say, if there's something here, we're going to find out and we're going to take care of it. Otherwise, you all look guilty and you don't have anybody's respect. And that's what happened here. For 4 days, they didn't want to do anything, and then everybody forced their hand. So, you know, that's just how it is. That's public opinion.
It's a very poor situation that we're in when the people who are supposed to uphold our justice system won't find themselves subject to it. When it's necessary. And like, why trust the justice system if the people who are upholding it don't adhere to the same rules? They should be adhering to those same rules at a higher standard. Like, if you are upholding the standard, you need to set the standard, and they're setting the bar super low right now.
And you need to cast out your lepers. If you're a cop or if you're a person who loves cops, you should not be defending this guy. You should be letting him go. You should be saying he's giving a bad name to the rest of us. But if you don't do that, then you look like you're in line with him.
it's a very common phrase that you see with people who are trying to dismiss stuff like this. Which, first of all, fuck off.
Mm.
But when you have people say it's like those cops are trying to protect you, uh, there's going to be bad apples. Well, you can't say that because like that's only half of the idiom. That's only half of the phrase. Like the full phrase is a few bad apples spoil the barrel, and that's
Yeah.
exactly what we're seeing. That's exactly what we're seeing.
Yeah, the
It's like
context again.
you've
That
got
is such a
like
that is such a
if you're
strong
gonna say that
statement.
if you're gonna say that there are bad apples, you need to get them the hell out of there before they spoil the barrel.
Hmm.
That's really
And
where we'll leave it.
no, yeah, it's things got to change, guys. Things got to change, and hopefully now that they're charging him, this will be an example. But we'll see. But yeah, we've got other stuff to talk about that
Let's talk
aren't
about Sonic the
crazy
Hedgehog.
stuff. Sonic? Okay, let's move on to Sonic.
You remember when that was what people were most outraged about?
Oh my gosh.
Like
Oh my gosh.
You remember when the awful design from Sonic the Hedgehog was like the worst? It was like people were the most mad about at the time. Like,
Yeah.
I miss those days. I miss
Could
them
you?
really bad.
I mean, think about it. This was like what, a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago that first came out, and people
If
were
that,
like, "Yeah, I don't
it
even
was
feel
less
like
than
it was that much."
it was less than a year ago. Like we did a trailer reaction on that on the
That's
fixed
right.
trailer.
That's
We
right.
did a reaction on the fixed trailer.
Mm-hmm.
The good trailer because that was
Right.
the one where they were like, "Hey,
It would have been around this time last year because the original release for this movie was supposed to be
No.
November.
It was, November 19th was when we watched the fixed was when we released the fixed trailer reaction.
Was it? Okay, because that was the
And
original when the original movie was supposed to release,
yeah,
and then
but
they
we also
pushed
did
it
it
out.
late. We were also
That's
late
right.
on that one.
That's right.
We watched that trailer a little bit late. But yeah, we're not even a year away from the release of Sonic, but we have gotten reports that they have greenlit it for a second one, which first of all doesn't surprise me because the movie didn't do bad.
It did amazing.
The movie did really good,
especially for all the extra money they spent on correcting this guy. I mean,
yeah.
everybody was like, if it wasn't going to fail the first, before, it's going to fail now. And it turned out to be one of the best performing video game movies ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
As far as video game movies go, like it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
And that tends to be the stereotype that if you're gonna make a movie based on a video game, it's gonna fucking suck.
Right.
And yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm not gonna say that it's the turnaround, that it was the movie that's gonna give me faith that we're finally away from that stereotype.
Let's calm down from that.
yeah, it was a nice breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
And I watched it. It was good. It was entertaining. Like it wasn't perfect, but yeah,
I want you to think about this. More people clung on to this film than Detective Pikachu. And if you were to tell me which one more people would have been talking about, I would have said easy Pokemon. Pokemon was huge.
Yeah.
But even Pokemon didn't seem to stir the fires. But this one really did. And
Detective Pikachu wasn't that good though. Did you see it?
No, it wasn't. It really wasn't. And
Yeah,
that would have shocked
good.
me. I would have bet hard money that it would have been a better movie than this, especially when the first, we knew what Pikachu looked like. Pikachu didn't go through this grand, redesign that Sonic did.
First of all, I will say for Detective Pikachu though, real quick, their design was really good. Like they did a great job with the visuals of it. It was the storyline and the plot that I took issue with.
Yes.
But
that everybody did.
But as far as like acting capability, like Ryan Reynolds is a great voice actor. Like without question, Ryan Reynolds did a great job as a voice actor.
Did he? Because it wasn't Pikachu to me. It was Ryan Reynolds.
But yeah, that was kind of what we all expect. Like he was a spoiler alert. He wasn't a Pikachu. He was a human being in a Pokemon's body. I
know, but I think still people were like, I don't, Ryan Reynolds to his credit, he's amazing, but his downfall is he's Ryan Reynolds, and I mean it's really
definitely typecast.
It's really hard to not see him and hear him and be like, oh, this is just a PG version of his Deadpool. Like this is it's Ryan Reynolds.
but the I would argue that the whole point of a voice actor's job is to make the character that they're playing indistinguishable from a real person.
Yeah,
Like you want it to seem as real as possible. So now,
sure.
just like, yes, he was absolutely playing himself to a certain
Hmm.
degree, but I mean, he did a good enough job to where it was believable. But again, it was the writing and everything that I had a problem with. However, Sonic the Hedgehog's actor, he did a great job. I'm
Yep.
blanking on his name though. I'm gonna have to look that up because he was Ben Schwartz. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Um,
right. Yeah,
like who if you've seen Parks and Rec, you gotta love
Parts
him
and
as
Rec.
John Ralphio because
That's right.
like he's
He
great
was
as John
great.
Ralphio.
Very
But yeah,
charismatic.
Sonic did great, and I'll absolutely go and see a sequel.
Yeah, well,
Um,
my question is because that's all they've said is that we're moving forward with the sequel. My question is, are they going to hire back all the people that they fired that put the first one together? Because if you
excuse
remember,
me.
uh, they said when they announced that they were going to do the redesign, they gave their animators like 6 months, 5 months to redesign this, and then they pulled it off, and then they closed down that animation studio, and all those people lost their jobs. So this was a Vancouver based moving picture company. Um, by the
Moving
way,
picture.
yeah, which was behind the Academy Award winning effects and animation of Life of Pi, was closed down right after they finished this. It housed over 800 artists during its peak back in 2013. So that's not to say that there was 800 artists when they were doing Sonic, but they were given the impossible task of fixing Sonic quickly, and they did it. And what was their reward? They lost their jobs.
Get out of here.
So I mean, so I would just hope that they bring those people back, because if anybody deserves to work on the sequel, it's the people that fucking fixed it and saved it. Because no, it wouldn't have done half as well, a third as well, a quarter as well, an eighth as well as it did without the people that made Sonic look like Sonic.
It was I don't know. Like this is a perfect like the way that they've set it up. I feel like they've got a great way to continue on,
Sure.
and uh, I hope that they bring back the same animating crew because they did a really good job. Obviously, they're bringing him back to like a different company or to a different studio, but I mean, just because that studio closed down doesn't mean that the animators are any less talented or anything like that. Like you're
Sure.
still gonna find good people. I mean, that's a very rich and diverse market nowadays. A
Hmm.
lot of people are in that field now, so it'll
Yeah.
be interesting to see where it goes from there. I'd really like to see more of the other characters in the Sonic universe in the sequel. So, which I'm sure is probably the direction they're going to end up going.
Yeah.
Um,
Or they could do like the Wreck It Ralph direction and just do like the universe. Like, could you
yeah.
imagine a shared Sega universe?
Oh man,
The
that'd
Sega
be that'd be
Cinematic
crazy.
Universe, the SCU. That'd be crazy.
I mean, if they want to go that route, do it the right way and give each character their own individual movies, and then do the team up later. Let's not pull a Justice League here. Like
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
not jump the gun.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, let's
well,
round out this hour with these two other short stories, because they really are
yeah,
short. They're not long conversations. Uh,
we stretched Sonic out quite a bit too. So,
yeah, yeah. The
there's a
first
sequel coming. Done.
the first one we actually talked about this a couple weeks ago when we were talking about how how it just seems silly for movies to cost as much as they do, especially in this kind of climate when the theaters and the way studios traditionally make money is kind of all up in the air right now.
Yeah.
And we were talking about how Scorsese had this movie as a period piece called The Killers of the Flower Moon that's supposed to have DiCaprio and De Niro in it. It's a drama, and he
Of
was
course, De
shopping
Niro's
it
in it.
around. Yeah, right.
Of
Like,
course, De Niro's in
of
it.
course it is. He was shopping it around, and it was about $250 million. $250 million was what this budget had ballooned to. And we were I don't know if you remember, we were talking about how silly that sounds. Like, who's going to pick up this movie right now, when everything is just kind of, I mean, who's gonna be able to afford this movie? And it seems like they finally figure out a way to make it happen.
I was gonna say I don't know. It's Martin Scorsese. If anybody can sell somebody on a movie, it's kind of
Uh,
him.
I don't know, man. I mean,
It's a
think
tough
about
sell. Don't get me wrong. Like
think
based
like
on the timing, but
the I when we talked about this, The Irishman got a lot of nominations, but how many Oscar wins did it get? How many Oscar wins? It got zero.
zero.
And it looked, I'm sorry, I actually liked the film, but for as much money as they spent on that film, the CGI looked like shit. Like the de-aging,
Yeah.
look, how long
Like
ago was Benjamin Button? The de-aging on Benjamin Button was amazing, and that movie's got to be at least a decade old by now. We have seen de-aging in Marvel done correctly. You can't de-
indistinguishably.
Yes, we've seen
Like
YouTubers de-age De Niro, but for whatever budget Scorsese had, they couldn't do it in The Irishman, and they spent all that money and they fought for that long ass runtime, and it came out with no Academy Awards, and so I think that was all kind of against them when they were trying to shop around this film.
yeah, I I don't know. I the time for like the timing when you think about who's actually giving money to these studios though, we're not talking about some broke fuckers though. We're
Mhm.
talking about some rich pricks.
Sure,
I'm not even gonna say pricks because they've funded movies that I like, but they probably weren't. They're not always gonna be the nicest people in the world, but but yeah, like when uh, when we come out of this, when we cut out of this,
hmm
the money's gonna flow. Like we're gonna see stuff start to boom because, like I said, more people are gonna start coming into the theater.
for
More
sure.
people are gonna start spending money on movies. More people are gonna start investing in stuff like that because costs are gonna be really low at
hmm
first. They're gonna try and get in on that ground floor before things start to balloon because of supply and demand going right the hell back up.
hmm
Uh, I mean, if you're going to make an investment in something, now would probably be the time to do it before everything starts to skyrocket upwards.
Yeah.
And I imagine that the movie climate is going to fall subject to the same logic. Like they're gonna want to jump in on that. And if you're gonna make an investment, which is essentially just a fancy word for gamble,
Yeah.
um, I would put my money on Martin Scorsese at least. Like even if he doesn't make an Oscar, at least making the money back.
I
Um,
don't see that happening here, man. And here's why. Here's
maybe
what.
not here, but I mean,
Yeah.
Robert
I
De
mean,
Niro, sure.
generally, sure.
Robert De Niro, sure, doesn't have the drop, doesn't have the draw that he used to. But DiCaprio,
He's pretty good. He's pretty steady in the numbers he brings in.
yeah,
DiCaprio is a good star.
yeah. I
You're
mean,
right.
I'm not saying that the movie's gonna make millions, that it's gonna exceed its budget like absolutely insane, but it's not the biggest stretch in the world to see it break even.
I mean, possibly, but this is what's really interesting about this. That they found somebody to put out this movie, because it's a weird setup because Paramount owns the rights to this film, and they were the studio behind it. But this is where it gets interesting. They flat out said we can't afford this. We can't afford this 250 to 200 or 200 to 250 million dollar budget that you want for a period drama. Uh, we can't do it. So they said, but we're not going to give you up either. So they said, Scorsese, if you can go out there and find somebody to pay for this, but allow us to put it out, then we'll do it. And somehow Scorsese went out there and got Apple to finance this film. So if anybody has fuck you money, it's Apple. So
Yeah.
Apple doesn't give a shit. They're not here to make money. They're just here for the clout of saying, guess what? We financed a fucking Scorsese movie. So Apple is going to finance the movie and they're going to act as the creative studio. Paramount's going to release it in theaters, and then eventually when it comes out of theaters, it's going to be exclusive to the Apple streaming service. But when you get this type of setup and you realize all the people you got to pay, you got to pay Apple, you got to pay Paramount, you got to pay all those people in between. I cannot see a world unless this movie is fucking, Inception Part 2. I cannot see how it makes its money back, cuz you're talking 250 million just the budget, not the advertising, not any of the other deals that surround a movie like this. It's
Yeah,
crazy. It's crazy to me that they
it's
pulled this off.
it's going to be interesting, but also like we're talking about him just now getting funding. We got to see how much the landscape changes
Sure.
in the amount of time that it actually takes him to do production, because we've seen announcements about movies getting funding or finding funding and
Mhm.
still not being released for 3 to 5 years after the fact.
Right.
So I mean, there's a lot that can change in that amount of time.
I just want to know, what about a drama period piece costs that much? 250
Yeah,
million.
yeah.
Like, what was 1917's budget? Cuz that movie was amazing. That
I
was a
don't know,
war
man.
movie.
I don't know, man. Roger Deakins expensive.
I know he is. And that, well, okay, so that movie, oh my god. Guess what the budget for 1917 was? 90 to 100 million.
Okay, I was gonna say like 150 or so.
No,
Um,
according to this, it cost somewhere between 90 and 100 million was the budget for that film. And that film was gorgeous. It was so gorgeous. All credit to Roger Deakins.
Roger
That
Deakins
was that was a
again.
period piece. That was a period piece. That was a war piece. That was a drama. And that's less than 50% of the budget that Scorsese is saying he needs for this film. So what the
and also
hell
and
is he spending that
also
money on?
and also with a pioneering cinematography method. I'm
Yeah.
not well. It's kind of tough to say pioneering, but I hadn't seen anybody else who had put together that elaborate of a one shot
Oh, I know.
system.
I know, right? Oh,
Like how
well, that
many?
whole thing, yeah. That
Uh,
costs money. It costs money and time costs money.
well, apparently not as much as a period piece by Martin
By Martin
Scorsese.
Scorsese.
But
God, you better fucking deliver, man, because I'm telling you, if he doesn't deliver with this, I think this is it. I think this is it.
well, let's
Because
say like
he looks
maybe
so defeated at the Oscars. If he doesn't do well with this, who's gonna pay for a film again?
what if he's like inflating the cost of it to include like uh I don't know, aside from De Niro's salary. De Niro
Oh,
and
De Niro.
DiCaprio's salary.
DiCaprio is
But
making at least 20, 30 million
oh
on
yeah,
this
yeah,
film.
he's gonna be up there. But like, man, it gets tougher when you start
That's
like
part of
breaking
that
down.
budget, though.
Like
Yeah, that's
I wonder if
always
he's
part of it.
including like marketing and stuff like that in the budget as well. Um, I mean, yeah, normally they don't, but still,
Yeah,
you gotta like. I wonder if that is part of the numbers that they went out there. Maybe he did that as like an advanced estimate
sure.
on marketing costs or something like that. Who knows? Uh, I don't know. I don't
It's
know.
it's
I
it's
don't know,
interesting.
man.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. That's all
It'll
we
be a
have for
tough
that
one.
story. We have one more story, and then we got to finish up this first thing
Henry
tonight.
Cavill is coming back.
He's coming back,
Coming back.
bitches. Now, I
Get
mean, it's
down.
not in stone. It's not in stone. It's still being figured out. But what
Oh,
did we
it's
talk
in
about?
stone.
We
Come
talked about
on.
last week about the Zack Snyder cut and how we hoped that this would somehow be a way to bring Henry Cavill back, because for the last year it's been like, is he like, have they let him go? Is he, he hasn't said anything like I'm done with Superman, but DC and Warner Brothers has said nothing to say, yeah, we still want him. In fact, there was a lot of rumors that said they were trying to recast him. But now it looks like they want him back, and they want him to show up in a couple cameos, and then possibly have J.J. Abrams come in and do a Man of Steel too. And oh my God, just saying that gives me goosebumps.
I like that quite a bit. The what I really want is well, I don't know. Do I really want that? Like I really want Ben Affleck to return as Batman as well.
Oh yes, yes.
Because I want that consistency. Like I really want that consistency. But I don't know. That might be asking, because didn't he say he was done?
Who?
Ben Affleck.
I mean, at one point he did, but there's
I
been
thought
some
he said he was
talks
done.
since Zack Snyder. There's been some
Sure.
It's talks in the air.
No, I'm totally happy to see Henry Cavill come back because I liked him in Man of Steel. I liked him as a character. I didn't like his CGI'd face or CGI'd mouth,
Nobody did. Nobody did.
but
But that's not his fault. That's
no.
not his
But
fault.
that was like the only negative that I had. Like I think he plays a really good Superman, and Superman is not my favorite superhero of all time by any means. Even though he kind of set the standard for superheroes, he set it awful fucking high. But Superman as a character.
Yeah.
But no, I think Henry Cavill did great, and I love to see more of him. Like that's kind of the thing that Marvel sort of spoiled me with is that when I see a superhero, I'm expecting a trilogy
Yeah.
of their solo films, and like we were starting to see some hope with that with Wonder Woman having a sequel and an announced third film,
Right.
and then the like the announced sequel for Aquaman. We're like, all right, well they're all getting trilogies. Well, why not Henry Cavill? And then they get announced that Henry Cavill's coming back. I'm like, yes, good deal. I'm getting
Like,
what I want, and I hope that they've learned from their mistakes. They're like, you know what? Yeah, let's kind of. This is an instance where it does make sense to listen to the fans. Be like,
yeah.
hey, this is what we didn't like. You got to stop trying to be like Marvel. Do your own thing, but put that effort into it.
But you can learn from Marvel because I think there's some
Yeah,
lessons.
absolutely.
It's really hard to do a story about Superman because he is there's a reason why so many people liked Superman when they were young, but then when they grew up, they got tired of him because it's a rarity to write a compelling Superman story because he's all powerful. He's not Batman, who's basically a human with gadgets, but he's got crazy invulnerability. Superman's he's a god. Okay, there's a reason why most of the Thor movies suck. And really, the best time he shines is when he's
Take it
when he
easy now.
okay.
You're
listen,
jumping into my territory now.
listen. There's a reason.
Take it easy on my boy.
In Marvel, because Thor is pretty much a Superman equivalent for Marvel. There's a reason why he's not in every single fight. He wasn't even in Captain America: Civil War.
No,
There's
he
a reason
wrecked
why.
shit.
And in a lot of the storylines, he goes off on the side mission because, yeah, he's super powerful. He would fuck everybody up. So they have to write an excuse for him not to be there half the time. And when they do bring him in, it's nice to see him, even if he's not the main character, he's like the side character. It's nice to see him because he's part of the team. And that's basically what they're talking about, bringing Cavill back at first to pop in Shazam and to pop in Black Adam. And stuff like that. And I think a lot of people really wished that would have been Cavill at the end of Shazam. I think that was a fun scene in the cafeteria, and Superman walks in, but his head's cut off because they couldn't show Cavill. I think that would have been so cool if they would have had Cavill in there. But so that's what everybody's talking about is that right now they're trying to secure that. But in defense of Cavill and Cavill's agent, he's not going to come back to be a cameo in a couple movies. If you want him as a cameo, you got to commit. You got to commit to giving him a film. But look at him. Look at his Facebook page. Look at his social media. The dude's still jacked. He's not working out just to work out. He's working out because he's fucking Superman. And if you want him, you need to act like you want him.
He's also got more
do something to keep
got
him.
more Witcher to do, so he needs to like we ain't gonna look at a wimpy Geralt.
Right.
We ain't gonna watch that season.
He's give him a film, man, and if you have to bring J.J. Abrams in, do it. And he'll do the cameos. He wants to be a team player. He clearly does. He clearly wants to be Superman. And I think a lot of people are excited about this. And it seems like the powers that be that made the Zack Snyder cut happen are the powers that are stepping in and saying, hey, we need to relook at this Henry Cavill drama and figure out a way to squash that.
I mean, they hinted around, specifically around Superman's character, having the big part of having a hard time of making a compelling Superman movie is a lot of the time that we've seen him in the Superman movies, everybody's loved him. Everybody, like a lot of people have loved Superman except for Lex Luthor. I think the thing that they did right with some of the more recent films is that not everybody's a big fan of him.
As you can see from all these people back here.
yeah, like, not everybody's convinced that he is the good guy. Not everybody's convinced that he's like a savior.
Right.
You got to play on that. If you're gonna bring him back for a sequel, you need to be like, hey, we saw that fight that you had with the fucking Justice League in the middle of a park. You tried killing people who, like, even we think like that most people think are heroes. We ain't gonna jump on board. We don't like you. Like,
well, I mean,
let's have his main enemy be the people.
I don't think so. I hope that event wasn't very well publicized, but I think to the writing credit, because this is in Batman v Superman, right? Yeah, Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
You had all these people back here and a lot of other people hating on him, but there's always going to be protesters. He was why did I go back to that? He was that was kind of a theme in the movie, was that despite the hate, and despite his own mother saying, you don't owe these people anything, he wanted to be good. He wanted to be there for the people. If he saw somebody across the world in danger, he went and did it. It was like, and I think what we need to see, because what did he get shit for? What did everybody give DC and Superman shit for Man of Steel? The very ending with all the chaos and all the buildings and the destruction. What we didn't get to see in Batman v Superman, but what it was kind of there, but they didn't do a good enough job in bringing that out, was that he spent the whole movie atoning for that. Like, he was blindly battling his first big battle ever against a member of his own, planet, and he wasn't doing enough, until the very end to take that fight away. And in Batman v Superman, he was trying so hard to atone for that. He was going anywhere and everywhere he was needed to try to save people as much as he could. And I think the more you show that, the more people will rally behind him. And they just need to emphasize that a little more, they need it. They don't need a super happy-go-lucky Superman movie, but they need to emphasize that love and protection, and that that beautiful side of Superman and his willingness to save people. And I think J.J. Abrams could be the person to do it. Now, granted, he's all over the place with movies and Star Wars and Star Trek and everything.
Yeah, but now that Star Wars is off of his plate, yeah, I think I think we can go back to seeing some good JJ.
He brought new life to Star Trek. Star Trek 1 was amazing. If he can bring
really good job with it.
If he can bring that kind of new life and flavor and greatness to a Superman movie, he can put as many lens flares as he wants in that movie. I'll take him. Just give me a good Superman movie. I don't care. Just let me see a little bit of it. You can lens flare the rest of it. Just let me see a little piece of that screen.
No, and you're giving him way too much freedom here, because he's gonna take every fucking opportunity he can to do that shit. Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and wrap up this episode. We're doing a 2-parter today. So if you are watching, I don't know if anybody is right now, but if you are watching, there is a second episode coming right around the corner.
We're gonna take a little intermission.
Yeah, we're gonna take a little bit of a break, and we'll bring you another one. We don't know how long this next one will be, but yeah, we got Clone Wars to talk about, and a few other season 5 of Clone Wars to talk about, and a few others. So for right now, catch us in the next episode. For those of you listening to the audio only, we will also release these right next to each other, so you will have that second episode to listen to right after this. So until it's time for us to assemble here again in the next few minutes, Nerfherders, we'll catch you later.
See ya.